Hello everyone, let's begin. Harmonization with this session 100% going both ways. Wonderful. So let's take a moment, take a deeper look at the pattern of energy that's presenting itself to us today. So the first thing that I'm noticing is increased sensation at the bottom of my right foot as well as my left heel specifically. I'm also feeling a diagonal line, so the tilting line is already popping up. I'm feeling it in two physical spaces. It pops up in my left shoulder blade and in my right SI joint, my right pelvic joint. So a tilting line moving in this direction. Here. It's flowing. So the sensation of this line is as though it's a moving stream of water that's moving upwards this way. It's moving up in that direction, and then it curves back down. So it's cyclical in nature. It seems like there's a stream that's doing this in that diagonal line, connected. It's circular. I don't know why my finger landed here, but it seems relevant. This is a pressure point, pulse point potentially. Pulse point, yes, a pulse point could be to do with a few different organs in the body. So let's start there. Traditional Chinese medicine, pulse point therapy. Something about the thymus, major immune organ in the chest, behind the sternum, just behind the sternum. Regressed in adults, much larger in children. For some reason, that is also relevant. So something to do with, I would assume, childhood, something to do with adulthood, something to do with something that regresses between childhood and adulthood, something that regresses between childhood and adulthood, something to do with this tilting line and movement, something about a regression of some sort of emotion that occurs between childhood and adulthood. For some reason, whimsy is coming in through the right ear. Whimsy is the word that's coming to mind. That is appropriate. Whimsy to do with the thymus. Whimsy, something that is lost in most individuals between childhood and adulthood, coming in through the right side, having to do with masculine energy, right? Right side of things, masculine energy. Left side of things, feminine energy. Masculine energy, in this case, not to do with gender. When we're talking about energetic dynamics, this has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with how these energies function. Everyone has both masculine and feminine energies in their body. Masculine energy has to do with initiating projects, starting new things in the world, stepping into the opportunities that I find myself coming face to face with is a result of masculine energy. So something about this sense of whimsy to do with masculine energy. Still feeling the bottom of my feet. Now let's pay attention here. Let's pay attention to what's going on at the bottom of the feet, especially in that right foot. Again, masculine energy. Let's see here. It's the entire bottom of the foot on the right side, just the heel on the left side. Is the heel relevant? No, so bottom of the feet is relevant. So it's almost like I'm standing on a piece of saran wrap right now that's coating and covering the bottom of my right foot, and it's like I'm trying to pick up my left foot so that it doesn't get stuck to this sticky wrap, right? The entirety of the bottom of my feet, something going on at a subconscious level, something that we're not consciously aware of, something that the entirety of the collective is not consciously aware of. That's interesting. So something going on at a collective subconscious level, right? Collective unconscious is the thing that connects everyone's subconscious minds. If something is collectively subconscious, that just means it's collectively unaware of, right? Collectively, the individuals who are connected to this, which is everybody, are not aware of this thing at an individual level, but also at a collective level. Is this related? It's related to the sense of whimsy. Second tilting line going in the same direction, different vector. I'm feeling this one just in my skull. Pops up on the occiput, the base of the skull on this left side. And it includes the occiput on the right side as well, but it also includes the entirety of my neck into my shoulder on the right side. So let's see. We can move here now, so let's go. Something popping up here into the base of the skull on this side. Occiput, the part of your skull that sits atop your first cervical vertebrae, the first bone in your spine. And it seems to be carrying into the entirety of this arch here, right? This arching space that runs between where your collarbone ends over here, and again the occiput up here. Something going in this direction, opening downward that way. Second emotion, something to do with the bottom of the feet. Something to do with the bottom of the feet. Something to do with fascia at the bottom of the feet. So that's interesting. I don't have emotional correlations for fascia, so I don't know at this moment in time. Can we know? We can know what this is. It does have to do with fascia. So if we knew how to come to terms with this information that we are unaware of surrounding this emotion that is correlated with fascia in the body, what would we do? What would I do? I'm hearing that's a wrap in through the left ear. That's a wrap, right? Implying something to do with endings. So the emotional complexes that occur within our body when we reach what we've perceived to be an ending seems to be the second emotional complex that's going on here. So two tilting lines, one of them is moving and circulating in this direction. The other one is an angle that's opening up down that way. The circulation here, something to do with the emotion of whimsy. This opening angle here, something to do with the emotion of things ending. These two things, these two sensations are blurring together. The motion is getting more amorphous. It's harder to keep track of. A lot of complexity within the shape of these different textures that are moving around the outside of the body, which makes me think that we're working with something in the field around the body that also explains that sort of saran wrap sensation that was at the bottom of my feet. This is relevant. So the field of information has collapsed in at the bottom. These tilting lines, as well as the concept of collapsing fields, I would look into the seminars MED or In Deep with Dr. Richard Bartlett if you'd like to learn more about these things. Everything is very still here. No thoughts are running through my mind. I don't know what to do next. That's okay. We just sit here. We just stay with these sensations. It's like a breath, someone breathing out and sighing, and I feel relaxation between my shoulder blades. My hands are beginning to move on their own, so I'm allowing them to do that as they trace the pattern of energy. They trace the pattern of information. Body is twisting. Something about rotation. Rotation is relevant. Is rotation exactly relevant? Something about rotation is relevant. Turning is the word that's popping into the center of my head. Something about turning a specific age, turning into adulthood, turning the age that you become when you're an adult. And no longer can you have this sense of whimsy. No longer can you have this sense of fun within your life. But you still think that you can. You just try to have it in other ways. You try to have it in ways such as partying, drinking, going out and enjoying the company of others, doing things that make you feel in the moment more excitable, and then you wake up the next day and you feel gross. You feel like, oh, I don't feel like I regret what I did, because everyone does what I did, so there's nothing wrong with what I did. But also there's this sense of something isn't the way that it should be. Something is lesser. Something isn't I'm not feeling the joy that I thought that I would feel by going out and having fun. When I was a kid and I went out and I did these things based off of instinct and intuition and I just had fun, at the end of the day I felt more charged, more energized, more ready to take on the next day and excited to do so. But after these things that I'm doing now that everyone around me says is fun, so I'm trying them out because, I should agree that they're fun if everyone says that they're fun. I don't feel that way. I feel kind of the opposite. I feel kind of drained. This settles in here. There's a large buzzing within both of my ears right now. Ears are relevant in terms of emotional complexes as well. New sensation popping up. Feeling it wind up my spine and over top my head here, like there's an arching sensation stopping right about here. Something to do with the ears, emotions to do with the ears, something I don't want to hear, something that we don't want to hear, something that we've been actively, probably subconsciously, but still actively avoiding the integration of this information because it seems painful, because we're likely afraid of what's going on. Is afraid the right word? Not afraid. More like something to do with what's landing here. So a fourth emotional complex that's coming up to meet it. This is a very intense sensation, like something is bursting out of my chest and it's matching up here. So we have these two lines of force that are buzzing here. So something to do with this space, something to do with the field of information, something to do with something that's in the body at about this level, something to do with pineal gland emotion of pride here. I don't want to see this thing because there's no way that I could be wrong about it. No way that everyone could be wrong about this one thing that everyone agrees with, right? But then we can look back at the things that have happened throughout the world and we can recognize that everything that has been discovered throughout history has been discovered because someone stumbled upon it. And what does it mean when someone stumbles upon something? It means that they made something up. It means that they saw something in the world, right? And it was real to them, and then they made conclusions based off of what they saw. They made something up based off of what they saw happen in front of them, which means that the thoughts that they had about that thing in that moment were useful. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're true or the actual reality of things in the world. And you can say that about any and every discovery that has ever happened throughout the history of all human time, right? It's always been that we're paying attention to something that is useful in a specific situation, but that does not mean that it's the truth of what's happening. It means that enough people heard what that person said that was useful to that person in that moment, and they agreed, and they went, oh yeah, that sounds reasonable, that sounds good, let's just say that that's a fact from now on. And then that happened and it persisted throughout time, potentially hundreds or thousands of years, to the point that now we just assume that when something comes up and it's a fact or a theory, that it's the absolute truth and it is infallible. But everything that anyone has ever thought up ever is fallible. It is something that is not necessarily true. There are always going to be better potential explanations for each individual moment. It's about what's useful in each individual moment, not an overarching theme of a definition. That's not the truth. That's something that may be useful in a large number of individual moments, but is it useful, and is it true, and is it applicable in every single moment throughout all of time? That's up for you to discover. That's up for you to find out. In this case, that seems to be what's related to our sense of pride here, is this is not something that I was thinking about, it's something that just sort of popped in and is coming out of my mouth, and I'm feeling this aggressive motion here, this overarching piece on top of the skull, coming up with this flowing movement that's coming out of my chest. These two things are bashing up against each other here. They're creating a distorted ball of energy here. I'm going inside of this ball of energy here. My consciousness is going inside of this ball of energy here. And I'm in a space where everything is just surrounded by bright white light. In my inner vision space, everything is just white. And it's like I see someone, I see a silhouette of someone who's very far away, and my figure is trying to move towards them, and walking seems like they're getting farther away, even though they're not moving away from me. And all of a sudden I'm running, and even though I'm running as fast as I can, they keep getting further away. No matter how much I try to approach this thing, it keeps getting further away from me. I keep chasing after this feeling that I know is possible inside of myself, this feeling that I know is possible where I could be having fun, I could be experiencing joy in this world, I could be enjoying my life again, like I did when I was a little kid. But the more that I try to fight and run towards this thing and do everything that I can to move towards this thing, the farther away it gets from me. That's the thing we don't want to hear. That's the thing that we're unaware of. Trying to get closer to this thing, trying to force it to happen, just makes it move farther away, because that's not the energy of play. Play doesn't happen when you try to force things. Play happens when you show up and you have fun and you don't know, and it's okay, and it's allowed to be anything. That's what play is. When I try to force something to happen, that's not play. That's me trying to satisfy my ego. And as a child, it was never about the ego. It was about showing up. And when I showed up, and I was allowed to be who I was, and I was allowed to just hang out and do all the things that I did as a kid, as the pure expression of me, then fun happened, and I noticed it. I didn't force that to happen. I didn't try to make that happen. I just came in and I was me, and then fun happened. But now we're noticing and we're remembering the moments in our life where we had fun, and we're thinking that had something to do with us, but it had nothing to do with us. It had everything to do with us showing up and not being us. Everything to do with us showing up and not having an attachment to any sort of outcome allowed for the facilitation of fun, allowed for the facilitation of whimsy and wonderment and adventure within our lives. All of these complex, compounding emotions whirring together. I'm feeling them now create a new direction, new direction. All of these things are in one motion. Now they're going the opposite way. It's still this line. They all came together. All of these forces are still in this line that's now going in the opposite direction. Now it's spinning forward. My hands are grabbing something. There's a line of thread between these two hands. And I'm seeing someone come in, the movie Hercules, with the Fates, where they have those large chipped pair of scissors. And I'm seeing over and over and over again, they keep cutting this, cutting this, cutting this, cutting this, cutting this, and there's something that's missing. This is playing over and over again. I need to notice something different about this situation. Clenching. I'm feeling clenching all throughout my back. It's just seizing. I don't know what to do, and this is getting very intense, so I'm going to use a concept from one of my teachers. I'm going to use a balm here. The balm. I'm paying attention to this moment. I'm paying attention to the sensations in my body, and then I'm trying to find the thing that feels those sensations. And I feel very confused, and I don't know what to do. I don't really know where I am. I don't really have a concept of anything right now. It just feels open and confused. And the string lights up. The string lights up, and they're trying to chop it. The scissors are trying to cut it, and it can't. Like again in the movie Hercules, when he becomes a god, and they try to chop the string, they can no longer do so. Because it's about letting go. It's about being in this state where I'm just aware of what is, and I just show up, and it could be anything. There's a quote from J. Krishnamurti that he uses, and he says, "Do you want to know my secret? I don't mind what happens." That's what we're working with here. That's where the fun has gone. That's where the whimsy has gone. from the state of mind of not minding what happens, not trying to force it to be something that you want. You don't know what you want. You know what other people tell you that you want. But you don't know what would actually make you happy. You would have to experience it making you happy for you to actually know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that thing would make you happy. Cool, and now that string is horizontal, no longer a tilting line. It's a necklace made of shark teeth. That's interesting. I didn't mean necklace, but I said necklace, so something about that is relevant. Cool, it's popping, it's around my neck here. A neck full of shark teeth. Shark teeth relevant. Shark teeth relevant in terms of... I don't know. That's okay. We sit with that. We sit with that sensation again. I don't know. Taking a bite out of life. That's funny. Take a bite out of life the way that it is. Not the way that you want it to be. It's not the way that you want it to be. If you take things from the standpoint of, I'm not going to jump into this until it's exactly the way that I want it to be, you'll never be able to jump into it because you can't live in the future. You can only live here, which means that you have to live here and now the way that things are now. You can engage with the things the way that they are now, and then they can come to change. But first you have to be with them as they are now. You can't be with them as they are in the future, because the future isn't here. The future isn't where you are. You're in the present. You can only deal with the things in your life as they are in the present. Ooh. Okay. Things are settling. Is there more that we need to know? Is this session complete? Are these trapped emotions still present within our collective energy? Wonderful. I believe that's all that I have for you today. I hope that it was beneficial, and I will see you next time.